If you went to an HBCU, you already know that if financial aid or administration was left to their own devices, you might not get your money, you might not get your class schedule or whatever. Immediately I knew that was not going to be my path. So I did for about 5 months before leaving that. But during that time is when I found out about group home. And then I started exploring and pursuing that. So this whole convoluted path of a bunch of things that don't seem to connect in any way is how I ended up here. And it was weird. It was like, what is this feeling? Is this fulfillment? Which I would have never thought this would be where I found it, but this is where it is. I am, and I still say it quietly because I'm not really sure yet. Like it's a budding feeling, but I think I'm experiencing enjoyment and fulfillment in this job, and I think still not ready to like double down on that yet. That I'm enjoying helping people. So it's not done yet, but at least we got his wound healed, right? The wound that the hospital created, it is now closed and healed, and the hope is that they can get this last part right.
Well, so we've been doing some more marketing, right? And we've been engaging with families in respective Facebook groups. We've been assisting them with getting a better understanding of the Medicaid landscape, of the care apparatus here in the state, right? And, some of those conversations have resulted in, really warm leads, people coming to the property, viewing the property and contemplating, making a transition in their 5-year plan for their loved one, right? Mm-hmm. And some of them have just been phone calls. Some of them have, not quite panned out to, a placement yet, right? But at the end of the day, we're still helping people. Can you tell me about the revelation you had in the kitchen the other day in regards to that?
I like helping people.
What happened yesterday? You had a colleague reach out and say, hey, have you seen this referral come through? And you clearly had not. Can you talk about what you found?
What happened the night before that, before I got that. So I haven't been getting referrals for like 3 months. And so every once in a while I like to check and just see what's going on. So I'm in iConnect looking around, and I can see that it says my house capacity, that this house is licensed for 3, which was true the first time I got licensed. But last year in my relicensing, it got increased to 5, and that's what my current license says. So a whole year has passed and they never increased the occupancy of the home, and we have 3 people living here. So I'm thinking like maybe this is why I'm not receiving referrals, because it says my house is full, so referrals wouldn't come up for me. So I emailed the last lady that sent a referral. I was like, hey, I just want to check and see, like, how am I classified in iConnect? Because this is what I see. It says I have no beds available for girls when this is a co-ed home, and it says I only have a capacity for 3 when it should be 5. Can you just check and see? So she responds back and she's like, okay, you're showing up on the nursing list for co-ed, but the options for how you're sorted is either nursing or ambulatory, non-ambulatory. So then I get a referral sent to me from a friend for someone that needs nursing. But like, I'm on the nursing list, right? I should get that. But no, this referral came out through the regular side, which is ambulatory, non-ambulatory. And you can't be on both. You can't be on the nursing list and the ambulatory or non-list. And what I've noticed is that there are a lot of referrals that are not classified as nursing because the information is old on the referral, and the reason it's back out is because they now have like a greater health need and they may need some nursing services, but they're not creating the support plans in accurate detail or classifying them accurately to get put in the nursing pile. So there are a ton of like standard referrals coming out and going to standard homes for individuals that do or may need nursing services. And so now our choice is, do we come out of nursing and go on to that other list just so that we can see those referrals, since there's no way to get both? But anyway, the point is that if I hadn't checked, I would have never known that they had my house capped at 3 when I have a license for 5. And this is the same thing that happened to us the first year. The first year, we were doing residential nursing. We had a nursing client in the home, and they never changed us in the system to reflect that we had residential nursing or residential habilitation. And the only way that got changed is because I happened to look in the system, notice it, and call about it. But it's almost like if you're not checking every quarter or something just to make sure your information is correct in the system, no one else is. So to find out a year later that they never updated our license, and we're at relicensing right now, so we spent our whole licensing year capped at 3, it's just, you have to check and double check and always check. Like, you're not just a group home owner, you are all the things. I know I said before, you the doctor, you the parent, you all that stuff. You're also APD administration. Because,
can you talk about how your time in college helped prepare you for this moment?
If you went to an HBCU, you already know that if financial aid or administration was left to their own devices, you might not get your money, you might not get your class schedule or whatever. And so in college, my habit was just like 2 or 3 months before the fall session would start, I would just call financial aid, check in. Hey, you got all the documents you need? You missing anything? Everything look good there? Regularly. And so it's normal for me to check. But now I see I have to, reach back and pull that same skill set and start checking on APD regularly, treat them just like I had to treat my college. Like, let me just call and make sure they got everything. Let me just check here and there, make sure they not missing nothing. Because otherwise, you're the one that you suffer the consequence. And there's no recourse, there's no apology, there's no back pay. There's no compensation for lost revenue. So, yes, if you went to an HBCU, you are uniquely suited to be able to manage the inefficiencies in this industry.
And so another thing you mentioned was how the prior experience in the different phases of your life helped prepare you for this moment in a unique way, a moment that you didn't envision when you started your journey ending up in. But
yeah, I think all of the things helped, but like,
can you talk about what those things were?
Yeah. So when I was, maybe let's say my first dream was to be a lawyer. As a kid, you just pick a thing and that's what you say. And then by middle school, I got into auto mechanics. And so, for the next 4 years, even through high school, I was going to open an auto mechanic shop. But I also liked doing nails. And so I wanted to go to cosmetology school and get my mechanics license. And then my goal was to open a business where I had the auto shop on one side and the nail salon, hair salon on the other side. And be the first one to do that. But then my family told me I had to go to college. I couldn't go to cosmetology school. My daddy told me I don't want to be a grease monkey for the rest of my life. So I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to go to college for business. And when I wrote that essay, it was to become a financial advisor for athletes and entertainers. But then my first semester, I took an accounting class and got a B. And so I knew that that wasn't going to happen because that broke my little heart, because I had an A the whole time and made one error on my final exam. It was an error. I could have got it right, but I made a mistake and that cost me my A. And so that dream died in the fiery death of a B. And I cried about that B. I was so hurt. Anyways, so then I moved on from that and I was like, okay, I'm still going to do music entertainment some kind of way, but it ain't going to be as an accountant. So I did all my internships at record labels in Miami, in New York. But then when I came back to school to finish my degree, you couldn't get a job at any of those record labels and get paid. So I was sold to the highest bidder. I just, the highest offer that I got from a corporation, which was Pepsi, I took that, and I chose Pepsi over Macy's because at least Pepsi, like in their marketing, they use a lot of artists and entertainers. So I'm like, boom, I'm gonna go to Pepsi and I'm gonna do marketing there, and that's how I'm gonna get back to music and entertainment. Well, if you take a job in somebody's sales management program, the likelihood of getting out of that into marketing, which they don't tell you, is like 0. So now I'm trapped 10 years in a sales career that I never wanted to have. Shit, it's too much. I had to write this stuff down before, but while I was in college, my job in college, so while I'm in college, my job, I am a project manager for new construction. I'm doing that. It's just a job to me. I'm managing rental properties. I'm managing a flea market. Building new construction properties as a project manager, but that's just my summer job. My in school job. Over the summers, I would leave and go to record labels. So I've been all over the place with everything, always. All right, now go back to Pepsi. 10 years trapped in sales. And when I wanted to get out, I was just like, what was the last thing I did that I enjoyed and made me happy? I enjoyed my college job where I was like building properties, doing rentals and stuff like that. So I said, I'll buy a house, an ugly house, and fix it up. And if I still enjoy that, then I'll try to align myself with that as a future career path. So that's how Ibis, the first house, happened. And that went well. And then from there, we went into Airbnb. And then from there, I was like, well, maybe I want to be a contractor because I enjoyed this. Let me try it. So I did go and work for a contractor at the time, and immediately I knew that was not going to be my path. So I did that for about 5 months before leaving that. But during that time, that's when I found out about group home. And then I started exploring and pursuing that. So this whole convoluted path of a bunch of things that don't seem to connect in any way is how I ended up here. And I'm actually enjoying it. So that's the revelation you've been trying to get me to say. I noticed the other day that I get up and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm happy to come and sit at this group home. I'm happy to go to these doctor's appointments and do this stuff. Like and it was weird. It was like, what is this feeling? Is this fulfillment? Which I would have never thought this would be where I found it, but this is where it is. I am, and I still say it quietly because I'm not really sure yet. Like it's a budding feeling, but I think I'm experiencing enjoyment and fulfillment in this job, and I think still not ready to double down on that yet. That I'm enjoying helping people. Who knew? Nobody would characterize me as such, but it seems like it. But all that stuff that I did, of course, running a business, I'm using everything I learned in business school. I'm using everything I learned from housing, remodel, management, and construction because there is a property involved in that. Even raising my dog, who was very sickly, I had to have a lot of doctor's appointments and having to advocate and fight for him because he couldn't speak for himself. I'm literally doing that for individuals who can't speak for themselves. So I got pushing back with the doctors and asking questions and understanding the medications and stuff. That's coming into play. Maybe the only thing I'm not using is I'm not polishing nobody's nails. I'm not working on any cars, but I'm still handy. So light repairs that have to happen here, I can't do them myself. So none of the things connected, none of the things made sense, none of those previous intentions had anything to do with what I'm doing right now. But I'm here anyway, and all of those things in its own weird way led to this point. So yeah, I guess you really never know where you're going to end up or what's going to happen. You just go in the direction of what you think you're interested in or what you think you want, and go over there until you don't want it and you're not interested anymore, and then go to the next thing that you're interested in or what you think you want, and just keep pursuing excitement and enjoyment and things that interest you. And eventually you might end up somewhere that you like and you hang out for a while, but also don't be afraid to move on and go do something else.
very true. And it's crazy because of all the loops and turns and twists and ups and downs you just described in your trajectory. It's still kind of a full circle moment that reconnects at a part of your origin story that you don't give a lot of credit to. When you were growing up in Miami, your mother participated in the Devereaux foster program, and in a way, you are in an adjacent area today.
Yeah, and I cannot say I grew up in that foster home and enjoyed it. I wasn't like, yay, I love these kids, I want to be surrounded by them, work for them for the rest of my life. It was a non-factor. It had nothing to do with me. Like, that's what my mom did. And I didn't have to help. You know, like some parents, the kids also have to do the work too. Like, that was hers to do. And I saw it happening, but I didn't have to carry any of the responsibility of those children or of that work. So it was just never anything that I paid any attention to at all in terms of influencing what I did or didn't do. But I will say, like, everything prepares you for what you're doing. What that exposure prepared me for, maybe, is for tolerance and like compassion and those things, because I got to watch my mom treat people like people, and so I learned to treat people like people.
I love that, treating people like people. Have you learned anything new recently in regards to licensure, in regards to operating your current business model, and any other potential business models within the space that you're considering?
I was considering licensing the other house under ACA, and what is that, Agency for Healthcare Administration. And we recently heard that if you have a home license under ACA, you can serve both APD and non-APD clients in that home, whereas in an APD home, you can only serve APD clients. But you hear a lot of good and bad about different agencies. Like right now, I have the devil I know. I'm in APD. I'm learning how to navigate that system. But to license the other house under ACA, that becomes a new system. I have to figure out, learn how to navigate, learn what their compliance rules are. And also, they have a fee. So I think for now, I'm going to license it under APD because I know exactly how to do that. I have that application packet ready to go, and I could get that done immediately, and there's no fee. And then have that license so I'm open and available for any opportunities that come through APD, but then start the process of navigating the ACA application and trying to get licensed with them, and then swap it out if need be. But also with the new funding and the pending increase in referrals that we think should come out because they have this new funding and can move people off of the wait list, I wanted to make sure that property is licensed now so that we're ready whenever those opportunities come, and we don't know when they will. So that's all I know for now.
Cool. Can you talk about some of the individuals who've been calling with needs that don't maybe align with the structure of this current home, and how you're potentially considering a different model moving forward to possibly serve them?
Yeah, well, all of the calls that we get through Google or through posts in like special needs Facebook groups or just word of mouth, they're non-nursing and mostly non-APD, which is what we do. So now it's causing me to wonder, well, like it seems like there's a greater need in this other area of people who have disabilities but aren't on APD, or who have disabilities but are more high functioning than like a total care nursing individual has. So I've considered trying to figure out, maybe we change the, target population of the other house to be able to serve some of these people. And all of the parents are having the same story. Like, no matter where they go, they can't find spaces for their higher functioning disabled individual. So much so that they all are even considering like getting a home themselves so that they can have something that fits their kid. I think I've been offered 3 properties so far from 3 different parents, just trying to find the right space and environment for their kid. So a new rabbit hole has opened. I'm not in there yet, but I see it. I'm considering walking over there, and each conversation with a parent that can't find the right environment for their kid pushes me closer to it, but not in there yet.
So we recently described about challenges with healthcare for one of our clients in the hospital. Can you provide an update on the individual's condition and what we had to go through in order to be able to, help them along their health journey?
You mean the whole thing? Like everything?
Yeah.
Well, anytime a new patient comes, you're gonna go to their home and do a patient assessment, but without like being with them 24 hours a day, every day, you really don't know what their needs are. Like, you just don't know until they get here. So the first thing we do is make sure we have a doctor's appointment set up within, the first 2-3 days of their arrival. We were able to have his doctor's appointment like the very next day. So at least you have one night to see whether or not the individual sleeps and just whatever you can learn about them. And so on that first appointment, for the things you initially notice, like, everybody in the house has similar diagnosis and issues, and they all have similar medications. So the first thing that sticks out is when you get an individual and you're like, oh, there's a medication they don't have at all, and they've been here 24 hours and they haven't made a bowel movement or something like that. So the first thing we added were laxatives, because a lot of the medications that they take for their conditions cause constipation, plus they're on like liquid formula. So, easy change. Person needs a laxative. Let's put that in there. Well, 5 days later, the person pooped out a 32-ounce Gatorade. So clearly the laxative was important. Okay. But it's that, like, every day you learn a new thing, right? Is the person having a lot of like saliva or secretions? Do we need to tweak a medicine here? Do they sleep at night? Okay, what can we add to help them sleep at night? What's their anxiety level? Okay, what do we add to help improve anxiety? So you're just going through this like trial and error of trying to stabilize them based on what you're observing. And in that process, one of the biggest issues he had was a G-tube that leaked. It's just like, all right, you're very tiny, you're not gaining weight or able to maintain weight, but you're also not able to keep all your formula in your body because it's leaking out of this G-tube. So that became like our priority number 1. Let's get this fixed or replaced. I'm thinking about it from a very logical approach, but medical professionals are so fucking smart that logic is unnecessary. His G-tube has a lot of wiggle room in it. So I get a little measuring tape and I measure. I pull it up until the like seal on the inside stops, and I can see that it comes out of him by 2 centimeters. It's not supposed to come out at all. So I'm like, okay, this is 2 centimeters too big. Very simple. I go to Google. Okay, Google, what size is a Mickey button that is 2 centimeters smaller than the one he currently has? All right, I call the doctor. I say, hey, G-tube's too big. We want to replace the Mickey button, and I think this is the size he needs because this is how much, difference it is versus what he has and what's coming out of him. And they say, cool, yes, we're going to schedule time. You're going to bring him to the ER tomorrow morning. I'm going to notify my team in advance. We're going to replace it. It sounds so simple. We get to the ER, we tell them what the doctor told us, and then all hell breaks loose. Nothing apparently seemed to have been planned or prepared. He gets passed through the GR department, IR department, infectious disease. They're passing him through all the departments. And by the end of it, he has spent 7 days in the ER. He's developed cellulitis from their lack of care. And what the G-tube that they replaced in him was still too big and further aggravated and fostered the development of cellulitis. So we have an all-out fight. Fortunately, we knew the attending because he's our neighbor. And we were able to push to get him released, even though they didn't want to, right? Because now his G-tube site is all fucked up. They've removed it. They've left the wound open and the cellulitis there. And the only way he's receiving nutrition is through like a nasal gastral tube. And according to them, no one goes home with that. Although I've seen it, but they've never seen it at this hospital. Oh, and also this tube is hospital property, so we can't release him with that tube, which lie. You charged his insurance for it. It's his now because it's in him, and if it came out of him, it would be going in the trash. So anyways, we fight for about 3 days to force a release from the hospital, which finally happens. And so now we've had him home for like 3-4 weeks, just working on getting the cellulitis cleared up, getting the wound healed, and getting the G-tube site to close up so that they can either place a new site or at least have it much tighter where we can go down a size to the appropriate size Mickey button that he needs. So the wound is doing great. It's all healed up. So we had a GI appointment yesterday to let them know he's ready to go. Let's get him on the schedule and get a referral so he can get a new Mickey button placed. But then I specifically said, and we want to know the route, because I heard some talks about them doing a GJ tube where he doesn't have issues where he needs that. He literally just needed a smaller Mickey button. How you got to a more complicated procedure, I don't know, but smaller Mickey button. Here's my suggestion based on my measurements and the experience we had here. We think he needs this size, and here is why. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna put all that in, I'm gonna submit it, because my objective is, if you schedule me to come back to this hospital, they need to either have a tool where they measure to get exactly the size, or they need to have a couple different sizes there around about that range that we're thinking, so that they can find the right fit. And I know that when he was in the hospital, they didn't have that size that I was thinking he needed at all, which is why what they placed was still too big. So it's not over yet. I'm very concerned. I at this point, I think they're complete idiots, and I don't know that they'll even get this part right. But leading up to that appointment, it's constant checks and guardrails like, hey, what size Mickeys are you going to have on site prior to the surgery? Are we confirming that it's a Mickey and not a GJ tube? Like, I want to know exactly what's happening. I want to know that you're going to have the multiple sizes available. I want to know that you're going to measure it while you're there. Like, this should be an outpatient procedure. We don't want to get stuck in this hospital for a week. And we also requested to change hospitals because the original one, they're a nightmare, and we're just not going through that anymore. We've had a full, this whole year we've been fighting with them with various patients. So we've also switched the hospitals. So it's not done yet, but at least we got his wound healed. Right? The wound that the hospital created, it is now closed and healed. And the hope is that they can get this last part right. But we will have to do the checks and the double checks and the questions and never go to the doctor and just say, okay. Make them justify what they're doing, explain the logic, because they're just, I'm not going to go in on too much, but just be your own advocate. Just because they're a doctor doesn't mean they're smart.
So, to the point of being your own advocate, right? You mentioned desiring to switch to a different hospital, which is in the same provider, just a different location. Can you talk about the varying experience you had at this different location and what gives you confidence about being there?
Night and day. The original hospital we were going to, if we went there and somebody went in the ER, everything would be wrong with them. They would keep them. They would either withhold seizure meds, which would cause a seizure, which would cause you to have to stay there another day or two for observation, it would always be some shit. We've gone to this other smaller hospital. We go in, they ask us what we want, what we think is best for the patient that we know, because they don't, and then they do that. And we can move the on. We're in and out of the ER in 6 hours versus every ER visit turning into a 1 week, 2 week, 3 week stay.
Yeah, that about sums it up. I think that the collaborative approach and the attention to detail. I know you mentioned at the first hospital, right? No matter how many times you would update every single doctor of the teams that were brought in, it seemed like nobody was reading any of the notes in the system and actually knowing what the heck was going on with the patient.
At all. At all.
But I'm glad that we're having a positive result and that we have confidence that, in the unforeseen event of medical situation deteriorating to the point of needing hospitalization, that we have confidence in a location that we can go to.
But now, because the first hospital, maybe the first 2 times we went, no problem. And then after that, I don't know what happened over there. But so far, the new hospital is working out. And I hope it stays that way.